And I made a decision that I was going to claw my way back, and I wasn't going to let that happen. And so that's what I did.
We're all about turning a crappy situation into something positive.
$250,000 of credit card
I
debt.
still remember the day when no one turned up.
Throw it in the garbage and start from scratch.
I could give myself a chance, so I started something.
I mean, I think that counts as from poop to gold.
Welcome to From Poop to Gold. I'm your co-host, Benton Crane, CEO of Harmon Brothers, and I'm joined today by Shannon Klingman, the inventor and CEO of Lume deodorant. Welcome, Shannon.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
For context for our listeners, most of our listeners probably know that Lume deodorant and Harmon Brothers did a campaign together a few months ago. For those who are not aware of the campaign, let's share a couple of the stats of where it's at right now. I think we're up to 38 million views on the campaign.
Yeah, I think it might even be higher than that now.
It's fantastic.
Yes, yeah.
So we'll come back to that. We'll talk a little bit more about the campaign, but I want to stay on your backstory for a few minutes. So you came out of med school, you became an OBGYN. Mm-hmm. How long did that practice last?
So I practiced for about 10 years before my husband and I decided that he's also an OBGYN. And we decided that being a part of two busy practices, up in the morning, having to round, up late, unpredictable schedules, delivering babies in the middle of the night, that something just had to give. And after the birth of my second child, I quickly conceived again with our third child. And we knew at that point that to have two babies 13 months apart and a young child in elementary school, that I probably just needed to be home. That's where my heart was at. I loved feathering my nest. I'm a gardener, a bread baker. I love just making a home. I'm a homebody. We don't do too many exciting things outside our own four walls. We kind of make our own fun. And so I was a stay-home mom for 7 years. And I still consider myself a stay-home mom to some degree, just a mom who runs a business out of a home office. But so it was about, our daughter Julia, who's now 12, was 5 months old at the time.
Okay.
Where we decided that an idea that I had years ago for a deodorant product was something that was really weighing heavy on my mind. And I felt like this was a winner. And it was not just because I saw that there was a void in the market. It was much bigger than that. It was that I knew that there were women that were going to their OBGYN with a concern of odor. And it would get brought up if they had, were trying to conceive, or they had a new relationship that they were in, or they, for some reason, just noticed from time to time that they had a shift in a perception of odor, that if they were going to their doctor, they were leaving with an antibiotic and a diagnosis with something called bacterial vaginosis. And I really felt it was a garbage diagnosis. It's really subjective. Patients come to the office looking for a solution. Doctors want to give them one. And I think just check the first three boxes right there. Problem, needing a solution. Doctors want to give them one. And they do have a little bit of odor. But then all the tests that we do to confirm a diagnosis of BV are really subjective, meaning it's not an exact science. So with that suspicion in mind, I went to my colleagues and I said, do you guys ever feel like we're overcalling this, or that this isn't really an internal process, this is all an external process? And it was like, just go see the next 15 patients. You've got a full office, and just keep going.
Right. Now, on top of that, aren't there dangers in overprescribing antibiotics? Doesn't the body build up a resistance towards those?
Yeah, it is possible. And also it increases the risk for yeast infections. And even more importantly is the risk to the psyche. Once you've been given a diagnosis that says you've got something wrong with you, the next time you notice that odor again, you're far more, you're likely to say, it's back. That problem didn't go away. It must be me. And it undermines your confidence and makes you feel a little more insecure. And so that's what bothered me the most. And it was when my husband and I were trying to get pregnant with our daughter, Julia, who was 5 months old at the time when we started really moving forward on this project. And she's now 12, to give you an idea of how long this has taken. He and I were up in the middle of the night and on call, doing things that couples do when they're trying to get pregnant. I was in the office the next day and, hadn't showered, and I'm in the bathroom, and I go to sit down, how women do. And I noticed that odor that women complain of. And I realized that I don't have BV. I know I don't. And it was an external odor. And I went to my husband and I said, listen to this. BV is a garbage diagnosis. I have had this suspicion. It's far overdiagnosed. And I think that women their confidence is undermined. And the solutions come with a diagnosis that they don't even have. So now they're insecure about it the next time it happens again. And it will, because a lot of things happen in a woman's body below the belt. So let's develop a product. And we just started coming up with, here's the concept. This is what I think will do the trick. Started creating things in our kitchen and thought, this works. And I had my sister try it. And my sister said, this product works so amazingly well. It makes my private parts smell like the back of my hand, like nothing. So I knew we were onto something because she's brutally honest. She would tell me if it wasn't working. So we hired an outside lab to prove our hypothesis, which was very expensive, very pricey for us, but it was something that I felt was necessary as a litmus test to say, let's invest in this and then we'll know whether this has legs or not. So we came up with the scenario, the way we were going to test it, and what it demonstrated was that the odors that are formed on the outside of a woman's body when she's exposed to bodily fluids like blood and semen are identical to the odor molecules that are formed when she has bacterial vaginosis. So if it smells exactly the same, and then they look it up online or they talk to their doctor about it, that's like the gateway to, then it must be BV, right? So it smells like that. That's the same type of symptomatology, but it was an external process. The risk that we took was that if that odor wasn't identical and we just got a bunch of different odor molecules and we couldn't isolate it, but what was so beautiful about it was that when they reported the results to us, they said, here's what we have with BV, trimethylamine. And here's what we have with your scenario with bacteria that are commonly found in the GI tract, because everything's kind of close together on a human body down there. And then bodily fluids, blood and semen. We had one odor peak, and it was trimethylamine. And they said, do you want to publish this? This is really remarkable. And then when they applied Lume, and Lume entered into that equation, that gas peak was eliminated. So we knew we had something that was really effective, safe to use, and eliminated that odor concern that many women were having from time to time.
And how long was that? You just described the process of the invention and the testing. How long did that take?
That process was about 2 years. That was pretty quick. Then we decided that before we would ever launch it or try to partner with somebody, we needed to have some protection around the intellectual property. So we seeked out a patent writer, and his name is Jeff Lindsay, and he's still involved with us today. And he's kind of our secret weapon. He took what I said and said it in a way that the United States Trademark Office could understand, and he really fought for this invention. And I don't think I could have done it without him. He was a very important part. I had to tell the story. He had to then translate it into science speak.
But protecting that invention was a key part for the future of your company, right?
Was key because I felt then anybody could do it, and
Right.
nobody had talked about it like I was talking about it before. In fact, when I would approach my colleagues about it, they were a little bit disbelieving or like, that's so simple. Why didn't I think of that? Like, that's just dumb. It's so simple. You know, your solution is so easy. Why didn't I think of that? But sometimes the best solutions are the easiest. They're sitting right in front of us, you know?
They usually are, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, throughout that process, or maybe we can even broaden the process beyond just the invention, but from getting to the genesis of Lume to where you're at today, what is the number one greatest obstacle that you had to overcome?
I just need a minute.
No problem. Take your time.
So you've heard the line where inventions are 10% inspiration, 90% perspiration. So the inspiration piece was intact. We knew we had a viable product idea. At that point, it was still just an invention. And understanding how to connect the dots. So I got involved with different people that were the wrong people along the way who wanted, would very quickly take your money. and help you out. But then they ended up not being the best partners for us. And it took me some time to wise up on how to choose the best partners. And what I kept thinking along the way is I think for the first time I felt like this was something I wasn't going to be able to do on my own. And I really needed to enlist someone else who knew how to do it better than me. And I did that 2 times along the way, and both times I was wrong. And it ended up costing us time and money. And when I eventually realized that I can do this without them, and I don't need to be afraid of the manufacturing process and distribution and the cosmetic formulation piece of it, that I can do this, that things really started to rev up for us. We had filed our first patent, and we'd received 2 rejections. And I felt like our patent writer was saying, no, there's still hope here. I can work around these rejections. And once you have this is an invention like nothing else I've ever heard of before. And he worked for Kimberly-Clark for over 20 years. So I think this gentleman knew what he was talking about. He said, I can spot a winner, and this is one. So we're not going to give up on this. And the decision to you end up investing a lot of your time, which is easy, but then it's costly financially, and deciding how much of a risk we were going to take in order to do it. And so again, the reliance on someone else to do it for you is where I think a lot of people might make a mistake, because it's really all in your own heart. It's
your grit,
it's your own
drive.
gut. It's your gut that is going to drive that bus. But you're insecure because you've never done it before. And they use terms you've never heard of, and you don't speak the language, and you're the most ignorant one in the room. And I just realized that I needed to be asking a lot of questions and being a really good listener, 2 ears, 1 mouth, and let people teach me the language so that I'm better equipped the next time. We got our first patent in March of 2014. Okay, so in March of 2014. But after we got that final rejection in December time, my husband and I had our 4th child. Her name is Amy, and she lived 2 days. And it was an incredibly traumatic experience for me and my family. And I really felt like, I think this is going to end here. We'd gotten our like a final rejection from the USPTO office, and I was having a hard enough time just doing my activities of daily living and maintaining what was going on in my own 4 walls. And I wasn't even sure I wanted to live, to be honest. I was so devastated by losing her. And I really just she was 2 days old. She was full term. And we knew that she had Down syndrome, but she had a normal heart. She was well grown. We had no reason to believe that we wouldn't raise her. And so it came as a tremendous shock to me. And I know to hear that, you might think, well, she had Down syndrome, so there's your explanation. But I was the only one that was really worried that things weren't going to go well. My doctors were telling me that I had no reason to be concerned, and that I was the least high risk of all of their patients, and everything was going to be fine, and I was worrying for nothing. And so then to lose her, I felt like I maybe didn't fight hard enough for her. And I was doing a pretty good job of beating myself up and blaming myself for that. So that when we got our final rejection for our patent, my patent writer, Jeff Lindsay, contacted me and said, we got a final rejection, and what do you want me to do now? And so how do you want to proceed? And I said, I just want to be done. I don't have it in me. In fact, it even didn't matter to me.
How close was the
So that was,
timing on
so
those
we
two
lost,
events?
so Amy was born in October of 2013, and this was in December of 2013, where we got our final
So you're
rejection.
still right in the middle.
Oh,
of
we were just right
in
in-
the middle of the grieving process. The trauma is still very.
Yeah, 2 months. I mean,
Right.
it took me a long time. I'm still not over it. I don't think I ever will be. But it was in the thick of it at that point. And I thought the right answer was to just surrender. And I was surprised that that was my reaction, because I felt like I believed in it so much, but it was just another rug that had gotten pulled out from underneath us. We'd had people that had promised us things, taken our money, not delivered it, and now the patent's not going through, and maybe this just isn't going to happen. And my outlook was really grim, but it was the least of my worries. I mean, Lume wasn't even Lume at that point. It was just this product, and we used to call it the product. Are we ever going to do the product? Where are we at with the product? Where are you at with that product you're doing? People would talk to us about it that way too. And So I told Jeff that I think I just want to be done. I said, I know that's a tough sentence to hear, but I don't have it in me. I don't have it in me. You know, my kids still want me to get up in the morning and make them peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And the dog still has to be let out and the laundry still has to be done. And all I want to do is go crawl in a hole, you know. It hurt to breathe. So taking on a project like this was just something I couldn't envision myself doing at that time. So he said, okay. And then called me back very shortly after that. And it may have even been in the same day. And he said, Shannon, you know, with all due respect, I've written a lot of patents. I've done a lot of patent work for companies over the years, and I have never seen more grit, more gut. I've never seen a more promising product idea from a one-off inventor who's funded this process, who's valued research, and has proven her concept through science like you. And so I'm going to go ahead and file this, and I'm going to file the appeal. And I'm going to do this for you pro bono. You don't need to worry about paying me. I want to be a part of this because I believe in it, and I think we can do this. And then in March of that following year, we got our first patent, and we received claims. And I remember I was on the phone with the patent officer at the time, and they were asking me questions and clarification, and they said, well, congratulations. I think we're going to go ahead and award this. And wow. So now I had a really big decision to make. March, after my daughter was born and passed away in October of 2013, and then the following March of 2014,
Right.
we were awarded a patent. So now we had the intellectual property protection. And the first thought that I had was, I don't know if my family's ever going to recover from the death of our daughter. And as much as it took me back, I saw Lume as I was not going to let my daughter stand for her mother stopping, you know, and I thought I need to pour all of this grief and hurt into protecting my family, into growing this company and launching it. And I can't let, you know, my grief just end with, so my children would remember me as like before Amy was born and then after Amy was born, because that's the direction that it was going. They knew me as like this really fun, outgoing mom who was up for anything, who did a lot of fun things within, you know, just at home, a lot of fun activities. And I think I was a good mom, but I saw that person slipping away, and I made a decision that I was going to claw my way back, and I wasn't going to let that happen. And so that's what I did. And I started making phone calls, cold calling manufacturers, learning about the process, fulfillment companies, then reached out to my sister who had, you know, worked in for Target for many, many years and said, can you help me do this? You know, and yes, and was her answer. And so we just kept fighting. And once we were able to get our first patent, that really poured a lot of gas on the fire for me, where I felt like now we're protected. It had more promise. And I was able to find a manufacturer that I trusted, and they walked me through the process, and it cost us a lot financially. We emptied out all of our 401ks. We took out home equity lines of credit and really risked everything. And there's people who would say that was crazy, but it was really the only way to do it. We were all in at that point.
I've heard a lot of entrepreneurs who reach that point where, okay, I have a great product and I've proven that it's great. And I've had several people around me validate that it's great. And now I just need to get the masses to understand about that. And I've heard some entrepreneurs describe that feeling and that experience as kind of like, I'm standing on a stage and I'm shouting this message, but no one's hearing. No one's paying attention. Did you have any feeling like that?
No, I would say that for me, like at that point with Lume, it was like being in love. It was all I thought about. I was so infatuated with this product and all the, you know what we should do? We should do this, and then I should do this, and that I was tireless. I like rode this wave of really high energy that just endured. And then I would say that the most difficult challenge for me was then, you know, as soon as you start putting yourself out there, no matter what, there are critics, and they are cruel.
Haters gonna hate.
Man, the haters gonna hate. They hate you. They hate your mother. They think you're ugly. they hate your hair, you're too thin, you're too fat, your teeth, whatever, right? They're going to find something to hate and pick those scabs. And when you're an insecure entrepreneur, because you're so vulnerable, you're risking everything, you start to think, it starts to creep in. And you have to get a thick skin really quickly. And I would say that the number one challenge for me was the psychological game, staying psychologically strong, staying on target with what your mission is and what you believe that this product is capable of, and just letting those negative comments roll off and trying to avoid them as much as possible.
It's like you're giving your gift to the world, and then when those haters hate,
yes,
it feels like that gift is kind of being thrown back in your face.
Right.
And speaking of results, are there any that you can share with us? Any specific results?
Well, the carrot just keeps moving, right? But one thing I can say is that our manufacturing volume has gone up 900% since the launch of the product. So from the time where we first launched to where we are now, our manufacturing company is realizing a 900% increase in our volume with them. They're really happy about that. And our sales have gone up 10 times. So when you say that's life-changing,
it's fantastic.
I don't really know. 10 times more of anything, that's really awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's really awesome. And the wonderful thing about it, though, is that we have our team is so devoted and dedicated. And I think we've done a good job of helping everybody understand what the Lume story is, that they are now all invested in the success of our company. And they've become just like, I don't know if you can understand, I'm sure you'll understand exactly what I'm saying, but it's like you start off with that original team. And now as we're growing and growing beyond that, like I want to maintain that original core.
Shannon, we've got we've got some goodies here for you.
Okay.
We have a copy of our book, From Poop to
Wonderful.
Gold. We've got a thank you card, and then we've got some little goodies from some of our other clients.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being on our podcast today, and thank you so much for sharing your story and letting us be a part of it.
Thank you for having me. I feel really honored to be here today.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you're interested in a copy of our book, you can find it at harmonbrothersbook.com. Once again, that's harmonbrothersbook.com. And that's it for today. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you.